Okay, so the first choice that you have to make when you get to editing is which one of these pictures do you want to be your best representation? And there's things I like about all of them. I like the shadow here of the axe blade. Things are a little spaced, but you get more texture, more background. I really like this one too because things are starting to get closer together. I've already cropped this one in the cropping video. I kind of liked how it cut off bits of the blade and focused on some of the smaller details. I'm not really feeling this one. I know it's twisted a little bit because it's not on kilter, but I'm going to go with this one. I feel like the closer I got to the objects, the better representation of what it was in my work, even though this one's got the cool little magnifying glass on the blade. So I'm going to move this one into, okay, sure it'll work itself out here. Might have to do it again. Yeah, okay. It's not working so good, eh? Oh, that was an edit that I had done of the same picture. Maybe it's not letting me do that. Well, let's take this one. This one's a warm picture. A couple of edits were made. I didn't take notes on how exactly I did that. And now I can't even remember how to delete. There. Delete. So I'm going to start with a fresh copy. It's the same image, but I kind of want to go in a different direction. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one too. And now I can take this raw, unedited version. Again, the tool that you use is not that important. What's important is recording the choices that you make. So right off the bat, I am going to take a look at cropping, although I don't really want to crop it. I think I did a good job cropping it in camera. I lied. I'm going to move it in just a little bit. Just like that, to put a little more closeness to the frame, and then I want to lock it back into 4:3. So I'll do it one more time. I think that's about what I want to see because I like the light off of that blade. And then I also want to flip it because there's some text, and I think it'll play better if the text is up right side up. So that I think is it. Double click. There's my crop. And I did a tutorial on light exposure, just kind of showing you all the different light exposures and color exposures. There are other options, but I want to explore different looks that I can get from this using those. And keep in mind, whenever I do an edit, I tend to look and see, what it's doing to the whole impact of the image. I think I'm going to leave exposure alone, maybe play along with a high contrast image, and take some of the highlights and bring them down to get more texture and detail. So I would be writing this down. I'd say high contrast. I want the shadows to be separated more from the light. Highlights, I'm reducing the highlights here so I get more detail, more texture. I would write that down somewhere. And then shadow detail, do I want the detail back? Or do I want to accentuate the contrast by removing the detail? And I think that's what I wanted to do. I think that's what I was going for the first time. Shift on the white color palette. Maybe a slight boost. I'm going to get more white out of the texture on the stump. Let's take another look at the black color. And down just a bit to continue to accentuate that look. And it gives me some nice contrast off the reflecting end of the blade and the shadow end of the blade on the saw blade. So I'm kind of liking this, how this is turning out. So again, I would want to note, what I did for this look. Color-wise, I'm going to go for, again, kind of the warmer, not tint. I don't ever use tint. I want to go a little bit for the warmer temperature. Just slightly boost all the oranges and yellows. Slight increase of vibrance and a slight increase of saturation. Less is more. And that's because mainly the one that pops the most is the blue. It helps this pop out more. It doesn't do as much for the oranges. And because these all interact, I might want to back off a little bit on the temperature because it's already being enhanced by saturation. So you just want to make a note of all the things that you did, the crop, all the edits, etc. If I reset everything, I could take that same image and go for a completely different look using the same tools. And I think this is really what I want to hit is how in post, when you're editing your image, you're creating a style. And I tend to fall into that category. I do like color, I do like saturation, I do like contrast, I do like natural light, but I'm going to go against that instinct here a little bit. And again, try to set everything back to 0. And first thing I think I'm gonna do is just make it black and white. Really remove all color. Actually, I'm gonna desaturate it. I almost want it black and white, but I want little hints of color, almost like a faded film. And then because I'm intentionally taking color out, that's the only choice I'm making. Down enough to where you can recognize the red, the blue, and the orange. So that would be the note that I'd make. You don't need to write that number down, but that's a value that you're choosing. And then I really want to see what I can do with what's left. And in this case, I do want to lower the exposure just a tad. And I'm going to decrease the contrast just to go against my instinct and bring back some of the detail from the shadows. The white colors are a little bit too bright, too much white for me, although it's not having much of an impact. That might be because the color's gone. And just a shade back. I'm really trying to look at the value and the texture between the lights and the dark reflecting parts. And so that's another direction that I could go. I'm going to bring some of and so that's another look. Again, the first one was more my style of using color. This one, a little bit more against what I normally do, just so I can see what it looks like. If I bring back some of the color and go on a cooler tint, which again goes against my instinct on this can look much more like a winter. It could be part of the story. And again, see if another direction that I can go with that. I'm going to go all out on the lowered shadows and dark black and really work. So I've got a cool color. I've got a completely different look now to the shot. Some blue tones coming off the reflective surfaces, which I like. How far would I want to go with that? Not that far. I still want to see some colors besides blue. So this is still a little bit more natural. Now the shot doesn't look natural. It's exaggerated. Exaggerating the shadows, exaggerating, bring up the highlights just a little bit. Exaggerating turning these shadows into almost a dark black abyss with almost no detail. And again, this is a completely separate look. So if I had this to imagine, hey, let's really work on editing, I would take your picture and do it 3 different ways just so that you can figure out which style works best. And again, it's really good to go outside of your comfort zone. Just doing this pushed me outside of the choices that I normally make when making an edit, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. It's just a different way of approaching it. So if I had to advise, how are you going to edit this? I would say, make your first couple of edits instinctively, but then see if you can't go outside of your comfort zone. And you might decide that you really like what you've done. And you might make multiple copies of edits before you decide which one exactly you want to keep. But I'm going to go and keep this just because I made some intentional choices against my normal instinct, and that's probably what I'm going to write about. So again, when you're editing, play with the features, but again, really try to be careful and intentional about what it is you're trying to achieve. What colors are you trying to bring out? Why are you making the choices that you're making? Because that's the most important part. Thanks.